guys, welcome to this week's Friday Waffle. I thought I'd go back to my roots and just do a waffle on my own for a change, because I've been quite lazy and been doing a lot of waffles, with other people, which I have to say I really do enjoy. But I thought I better try and see if I can still remember how to do it, because it has been a wee while. So yeah, I hope you're all good. It's what day is it? This is Thursday. As is the case, I tend to do, because I see my girlfriend on a Friday, I tend to record Friday Waffles on a Thursday. I've been on holiday all this week. I've not done a great deal. The weather has been pants, but then you know what, we're almost into winter. Well, it's autumn definitely, so I can't really complain too much about the weather. Not done a great deal apart from yesterday. If you follow my the Main Meister Facebook page, you might have seen a photograph that I put up today. Actually, one of the guys, one of my mates, recently picked up another arcade cabinet, a main cab. So he's now got two, and it kind of prompted me to start having a look. I have been, as much as I love my bar top, I really do love it. It's a cracking machine, really well put together, solid, does the job admirably. The only thing that I kind of miss a wee bit about it is it's at the wrong height. So you know, whilst you can stand in it and play it, it's not ideal. It's just slightly low. I mean, I'm not a tall guy at all, but it's slightly too low for me. So as much as I do enjoy playing it, like I said, it's always bugged me that it's not been at the right height. So I thought to myself, you know, I would love to pick up a proper cabinet. I don't mean an actual arcade cabinet, but I'd like to pick up a proper vertical cab. So when my mate picked up his one, I thought, oh, bollocks, I want to see if there's anyone selling one. So I went on to the JAMA board or something, I think it's called, and I just put up a post saying, you know, can anyone let me know if they're selling a main cab? And who did I get a message from? Mr. Paul Spriggs, aka Mr. Defender and Robotron Supremo. I think Paul was, I think he held the world record at some point. I mean, he's just insane skills. So Paul got in touch with me and said, look, he says, I've got this cabinet, a main cabinet, with it's got Defender controls in it. I'm looking to sell it. Are you interested? So I was like, hell yeah. So we agreed a price, and I went down. I hired a van yesterday, and I drove down to Newcastle to pick it up. I was a wee bit slightly nervous when I arrived to pick up the van, because I'd booked a transit van. Now I'm completely comfortable about driving something like that size. But they said to me that the van that they had, they didn't have any transit vans. Even though I'd booked it for like a week before, they didn't have any transit size vans. Would I be willing to take a slightly larger van? So what they gave me was, it's a transit van, but it's one of these ones that you see like Parcel Force and DPD driving. It's like extra long. Now, driving it in a straight line is absolutely fine, or you know, driving it forwards is absolutely fine. I mean, to be fair, it was a nice drive. The difficulty I've got is reversing the thing. I mean, I can reverse it all right. The problem is I can't see where I'm going. Now I know you use mirrors, but the sheer length of this thing absolutely terrified me. And when I went to pick up my daughter, it's like she lives in a kind of cul-de-sac. When I drove in, I then had to try and reverse it back, and I wasn't comfortable at all. But saying that, I managed to get down all right, managed to get into the van okay, and get it back up. So that was a bit of an adventure yesterday. Got back, left about what time? Left about excuse me, left about 9 o'clock, and I was home for about, I don't know, 3:30, something like that. So it was good. So yeah, absolutely delighted with the cab. It's not an original cab as such. I mean, the actual shell of it was put together. You know, it's a sort of DIY project. But I'll tell you, it is absolutely solid. And the great thing about it is it'll be very, very easy to upgrade it. I mean, I think the PC, it's quite an old PC. I mean, if you take it out, the sticker's got Windows Vista on it. So I think it's quite an old PC. I'm not quite sure what the spec is. It's got 2 gig of memory. It's got a couple of, it's like car speakers mounted into the sort of the bit at the top, the hood, whatever you want to call it. It's got a subwoofer thing which really helps add to the ambience of it. I mean, what was I playing last night? Was it no, it wasn't a Robotron, because that's the only slight downside to it. It has only got one joystick. But I've got my other cab for Robotron and that kind of stuff. It's got a subwoofer in it. By Jove, that gives off a lot of bass. So yeah, all good. The only slight problem with it, and I was a bit surprised when I actually saw it, especially when I got it home, is the sheer height of the thing. It is very tall. Now, like I said, I'm not the tallest person in the world, and I put it into my kitchen. My mate gave me a hand to put it in the kitchen, got it all wired up, set up, and it just looked enormous. It looked way too high, and even for me standing at it, it felt too high. So I'd kind of gone from my bar top, which is a bit low, to this thing that's a bit high. So I kind of get anything in the middle. I mean, technically, I could take a couple inches off it. I don't really want to do that because it mean I'm saying taking it to bits. Because it's so big, there's tons of space, and I mean it's dead easy to unplug everything. I mean, what to do that when I was transporting it. But what I did was it had wheels on it, and I mean the wheels are probably about 2 inches high. So I've taken the wheels off, which has kind of reduced it a wee bit. I think I wouldn't mind putting a bigger monitor in at some point. It's a 19-inch, and I think, to be fair, a 19-inch monitor is absolutely fine, but I think the fact that the actual casing is so big, it does make the monitor look a wee bit small, but it's fine. I mean, the monitor is the same size as the one I've got in my bar top. It's running it's not a version of MAME. I think it's running a kind of command line version of MAME, and it's got a front end which I've never seen before. It's quite an ugly front end, I have to say. So I think I will eventually put a new version of MAME on it. Something that I know I can run fine. But yeah, delighted. So I've got it in place. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just put I'll let you see a little photograph of it right now. Here you go. Yep, that is the cab. You can see there it does dwarf the what do you call it, the bar top quite a lot. But it's a nice cab, and like I says, it's one that will last forever. As long as you can just basically keep. If you get a new PC, you can put a spanking new PC in it. If you wanted, you can put a bigger monitor in it. And I think the way it's been designed, you could actually put a CRT in as well if you really wanted. But I'm delighted with it. I was a wee bit, if I'm being honest, how should you put it, slightly disappointed when I got it home. I was looking at it and it just kept annoying me. That thing where when you buy something, whatever, and something just niggles you. The sheer size of it was kind of niggling me. But the fact that I've taken the wheels off, it made it slightly smaller. And it's excellent, and it does play really well, and it's got some kick-ass sound as well. So, all good. So that's been that. What have I done? I've recorded a couple of collab videos with a couple of people. I'm not going to tell you who it is. You'll get to see the videos probably next week. Done a couple of collab videos. This massive project, that was the year that was Commodore 64 1983. It's now, I think it's about 3 hours and 15 minutes. It's taken me hours and hours and hours to actually record the damn thing. So I think I've done the commentary for about half of it. So that will, I'm not going to say next week, it will be coming out in the next couple of weeks' time. So that's kind of been that. Just an offshoot, just before I started recording this, one of my mates sent me a video to a handheld Wii system, and what I couldn't believe was the guy had paid $500 for this thing, and it looks kind of about the same size as, I don't know, a large 3DS, but the quality was absolutely awful. It had been obviously printed using a 3D printer. The quality build was terrible. half the buttons didn't even move, they were physically stuck down. A couple of the buttons that he pressed actually went inside the unit. It was so poorly made, $500. And the piece de resistance was when he switched it on, it started to smoke. And he even showed you that in the video. Unbelievable. And it was AliExpress, I think it was, that sold this. He's obviously raised a complaint, you know, with it. I mean, I hope to God he gets his money back, because I would be absolutely raging, or pure raging as us Scots like to say, if I'd bought that. I've seen a lot of handhelds, but that was by far and away the worst one ever. So yeah, so that's kind of been it. I've not been playing anything else. I will be along obviously on Sunday for the live stream. I think I'll do one more free-for-all, or potpourri, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, probably do that. So anyway, listen, I'm just going to... I know last week's Friday Waffle, I didn't actually... I didn't answer any of the questions from the previous week. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump right in and look at the questions from 2 weeks ago. Right, Panther UK, crafting waffle chaps, great to see the L-boy in the chair. For next time, back when you sold your C64 to get the Atari ST, did you ever think for a minute you'd go back and recapture a 64 and then tons of other retro machines? Absolutely not, Chris. Not at all. I mean, I think it's when you're here and now, and you know, when I think of the passion and the interest and the love I've got for these machines, it would seem an obvious thing to think like that back in 1986, 1987. But that's the thing, back then, you know, these machines, they were a lot more expensive, and you were just always looking for the next best thing. You wanted, I mean, when you first got your computer, it was blocky graphics, you know, something like the ZX81, whatever. It was real blocky graphics. It didn't even look like what you're supposed to be controlling. But so every machine that you got, you wanted it to be better. You wanted it to have better sound. You wanted it to have higher resolution graphics. You wanted it to have more colours, and that happened. So when you had the opportunity to sell a machine and buy a new one, you couldn't wait to get rid of the old one. You didn't even for 1 second think about, oh, I'll just hang on to that, because I was selling something, but you know, back how I felt then, I was selling something inferior to upgrade to something superior. So I never ever thought about that. It never even entered my mind that I would ever get another Commodore 64. And as I've mentioned before, it was only because about, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe 19, 20 years ago, a guy on a forum that I used to frequent, he had a massive collection of old machines, and again, that was something that nobody had any interest. People were wanting the PlayStation, they were wanting the PlayStation 2, nobody had any interest in old machines. Well, maybe some people did, but I certainly didn't. And then this one day that he decided, I think he was having a family, his wife was having a baby, and he decided he wanted to get rid of everything. And rather than selling stuff, he decided to give it away. Now, probably back in 2000, whenever it was, old machines probably weren't going for very much money. I mean, if you've ever watched any Steve Benway's videos, Steve, on his own admission, built up an amazing collection of machines, but he didn't pay very much money for them. Stuff like even the Jupiter Ace, which goes for daft money, he got for not a lot of money because nobody had any interest in old machines. Sorry, I was jump cut there. That was a pesky phone call. Did I grab it? Anyway, yeah. Getting back to what was I talking about again? About did I ever think I would? Did I ever think that I would have a collection of machines? And like I says, no, because I was wanting to sell what I thought was an inferior product and upgrade it to something superior. And so it never crossed my mind. And then I says it was when this guy on the forum decided he wanted to get rid of some machines. He asked, was anybody interested? So I put my hand up and I got myself, I think it was a BBC Master, a VIC 20, which I don't think worked, and something niggles me, was a Dragon 32 possibly, can't remember exactly. But that opened my eyes to, wait a minute, could I possibly get another Commodore 64? And then I went on eBay, bought a C64, went on eBay, got a Spectrum, and then it started, and it was like it opened my world. It was just like Pandora's box. I opened it. I suddenly had, I stepped into this new world where I could buy all these machines that I never had a chance to own. I mean, when you're a kid, there's no way you're going to own any more than one. So being able to buy a SNES, a Mega Drive, a Dreamcast, a Sega Saturn, what machine have? Oh, a Neo Geo. I'll get a Neo Geo, and it was awesome, absolutely awesome. And still love my fantastic collection. But to go back in time, did I ever think that I would have a selection of machines? Not at all. I had no interest in getting a Commodore 64. It just wasn't. It wasn't something I thought about. Possibly, if I hadn't got the machines, and then I started kind of emulating, I may have thought to myself, well, hang on a wee second. I wonder if I could buy a real C64. I don't know, but yeah, certainly not, Chris. I never for one second thought that I would be in the position I'm in now where I've got all these machines. So thanks for your question, mate. Colin Jones. Right, sorry, I'm just looking. Right, waffle questions. When you consider the retro period, so when do you consider the retro period ends? For me, it's when I got my PC 1995, and from then on, it's mostly been the same, much of muchness. But I know this is a more personal thing, not fixed. Retro, I would probably say, like yourself, Colin. I think when I got my PC, anything before the PC was. I absolutely detest this retro. I really, really hate this word retro tag that we put on things. Like I say, you don't talk about I'm watching a retro film. You just talk about I'm going to watch a film or whatever it is. I would like to call them more vintage hardware. So I would say, yeah, anything from the arcades, the Atari 2600, ZX81, up to, for me personally, I would say at a push, I would say the PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn, N64, Dreamcast. I suppose the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, I don't really regard them as class. I mean, they're classic machines. Alright, to use this horrible phrase, I don't class them as retro. Yeah, when you think about it, I don't know how many years ago the Xbox 360 came out. It was probably, I don't know, when did it come out? 20 years ago? Something like that, possibly, maybe 15 years ago. I could ask Alexa, but I'm not going to bother. But I would probably say, yeah, I think up to about kind of the Dreamcast, PlayStation 2 era, original Xbox, and then anything after that, I just don't really think of as retro. No. Second one, you're probably fed up of this, but Twitch. Streamlabs OBS, built on top of the OBS you're used to, will allow streaming to multiple platforms at the same time, and whilst it's against Twitch terms and conditions for an affiliate to multi-stream, it might be a way of setting up a beachhead and building up a Twitch community and allow you to have the best of both worlds, maybe even attracting more interest to your YouTube channel. Am I tempting you, or are you just sticking to YouTube? You know what? If it was that easy that, and you think you've just told me that is that easy. If there was a way of me being able to multi-stream, then it's something I would maybe think about. My primary platform is always going to be YouTube. That's what I know. That's what I like. Maybe I'm just stuck in my ways. I don't know. What to maybe do, Colin, is we can get together at some point, maybe online, and have a chat, and you can kind of talk me through it. I did very, very briefly think about doing Twitch, and then I kind of just kind of went against it, just because I don't know, it's just too much hassle. But if there's an easy way of streaming to Twitch and YouTube, then I might give it a go. I absolutely don't want it impacting on my YouTube channel, which I'm sure it won't. So maybe give me a shout then, Colin. Thank you very much for that. Highlander, good shout mentioning Marillion, Alan. Misplaced Childhood is one of my favourite albums of all time. Yeah, I love that album. I mean, that was I was into the early stuff as well, but Misplaced Childhood for me is a fantastic album. I think my favourite Marillion album is probably Clutching at Straws. I think it's some great stuff in that. Question for next week's waffle: on the subject of music, what other bands and music genres do you like? I'm mostly a rock, heavy metal fan myself. Yeah, I'm probably a bit of a metalhead myself. Favourite bands I listen to: Metallica, AC/DC, bit of Iron Maiden. I love all the kind of 80s soft rock, you know, your Van Halen's, Bon Jovi. I love Guns N' Roses. But being of a certain age, I also like a lot of music that my mum and dad were into. So stuff like Dean Martin, not even the Beatles. Mum and dad weren't into the Beatles. I think they were a bit too kind of old for the Beatles. What other stuff? The Mamas and the Papas, John Denver, all the sort of 1970s music. Love 80s stuff. I mean, I was a massive Howard Jones fan. Christy Barr. Now people tend to when you mention Christy Barr, they just think of Lady in Red, which I'll admit is not. I wouldn't say it's not a good song. It's not my cup of tea. It's like a love song. It's a bit. If I'm ever in the car and that comes on, I always just kind of skip past it. But it's the early stuff that Christy Barr done, Spanish Train and Behind These City Walls. It's all about storytelling, and it was a mate of mine's let me hear Spanish Train and Other Stories it's called, and I played it, and to this day I still listen to Christy Barr stuff. I've not really listened to any of his kind of more up to date stuff. I think the last stuff I probably listened to, most up to date album would probably be 1987, something like that. So that was a long time ago. But I love so much different music. I love Depeche Mode. I love Gary Newman. I love Jean-Michel Jarre. I mean, who have I seen in concert in the last 5 years? I've seen Fish 3 times. I've seen the Kaiser Chiefs. I've seen the Beat. I've seen the Specials. I've seen the Stranglers. I've seen Big Country. I've seen Bad Company. I've seen Jean-Michel Jarre. So many groups. Yeah, there's not really any genre of music I don't like. I'm not into like rap music or trance. I'm not really into dance music at all. But yeah, if I was to kind of pick a sort of favourite genre, it would be kind of heavy metal, definitely. Down the rabbit hole for the Friday Waffle. Hi Alan, there's a new solution for playing. I'm just going to do so I can see it all. There's a new solution for playing old light gun games on modern TVs called the Cinderella Gun, which has a tiny camera in the barrel of the pistol. Interested in getting it and can we see a look at someday? I've never, you know what, Kevin? I think this is true. You are my eyes and ears to what's happening on the internet when it regards to gaming, because I don't look at any websites that feature news at all. I mean, the one for me online stuff when it comes to kind of gaming systems that I do watch is YouTube. So if maybe that popped up in a video, I'd have a look at it. Certainly never heard of it. I will have a look at it actually. This Sinden light gun, and if I do get it, you can count on me to do a look at. Secondly, I'm wondering if you like Puzzle Fighter. I know you don't play fighting games, but since this is more of a puzzle Tetris game, I wondered if you ever tried it. I do know the game. It's kind of like sort of Tetris-y, but you've got these kind of animated characters from Street Fighter. I will need to give it a go. Maybe give it a go in my new main cab actually. I am aware of it, Kev, but I can't say I've ever really played it. Third, what is your opinion of the Castlevania series? You know, it's a shameful admission. It's the type of game that appeals to me, and there are so many good versions. I mean, I know there was the Symphony of Light, I think it was called, on Symphony of Light. Is that what it's called on the PlayStation? That goes for daft money. But I used to play it on the SNES, and I think I also had a Castlevania on the Game Boy, possibly. Yeah, it's a genre and type of game. It's a franchise of game that I want to play, and I've just never really got around to playing it. Other than I did play the SNES one quite a bit back in the day. I know there was more up to date versions that came out on like the PlayStation 2. Never really played these, but the problem I've got, Kevin, you just have to look behind me. I have got all these games, and then I've got all these systems. I mean, looking here, I've got the Virtual Boy, I've got a MAME cab, I've got my Vectrex, I've got my Spectrum, I've got my Amiga, I've got the 360, PS4, PS2, Wii, GameCube, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, PC Engine, Duo, Atari ST, C64, Neo Geo, SNES, Mega Drive. I've got all these handhelds, and for all these machines there, I've got different SD card solutions. So I've got an absolutely ridiculous number of games to play, and because I've got so much, I just simply don't really have the chance to play them. As I keep saying, I think I actually like to talk about games more than I actually play them. I do enjoy playing games. It's just getting the time. I don't know why, but I just don't seem to have the time to actually do it. And finally, the Sega Game Gear is now 30 years old. Do you have one, or have you ever been tempted to get one, and if not, why not? I never had one back in the day, Kev. I did buy one about maybe 10 years ago, and then it just stopped working. And I tried to fix it. I think I gave it a good bang with my fist to try and fix it, and I ended up giving it away to a mate. I gave that plus the games to a mate for nothing, because it was just basically gathering dust. Did I have any hankering to buy one, or would I buy one now? If somebody asked me if I wanted to buy one for 20 quid and it's in good condition, would I buy one? Probably not. And this is where I always go on about how original hardware, you cannot beat playing original hardware. You know, playing a PlayStation with a proper joystick or the proper pad, playing Atari ST or the Amiga with the proper mouse and, a proper joystick. You can't beat that experience, you know. It just feels so good. But handhelds is where that's where I changed my mind, because some of the classic games like the Game Boy, the Atari Lynx, again the Lynx is a machine I've never owned, and the reason for that is what I'm about to tell you. Because these original old handhelds, the screens were not the greatest. I mean, some of them, I think the Game Gear was actually pretty crap, and the screens were really small and they were washed out and they were just quite simply poor. Now I can enjoy a Game Boy game or a Game Gear game on my XPD, whatever it's called. I can't even remember the name of it. GPD XD, I should say. I can play these games in that, and it's on a much bigger screen. It's beautiful. It's crisp and sharp. It's got really nice controls, so I can actually enjoy one of these games on a different handheld far better than I could if I was to use original hardware. Now I do remember the Game Gear, when it did work, the picture was crap. You could hardly see it. Really poor quality. So for that reason, Kev, I've not got any interest in the Game Gear. When it stopped working, like I said, I gave it away for nothing. I've got no interest in getting another one, because I can play all these games absolutely perfect on much superior hardware. Del Boy, another question just in case you don't have enough. When a shoot 'em up starts like Salamander, R-Type and Blazing Stars, why is it that when the level starts and nothing is on the screen, do players mash the fire button frantically? Yeah, you know what, Dale, you're absolutely right, but I think that's just what you do when you're playing a shoot 'em up, because you never know what's going to come on screen. I mean, I'm guilty of that as well. You're hammering the fire button, and then you stop and you realise there's not actually any baddies on the screen. But I think it's just I think the most shoot 'em ups you just want to keep. You don't want to not be shooting. Won't this just tire your fingers for later? I notice this with gamers that are not new to game and they can only think it's to get into rhythm for later. Milty Swinbuckle, hello again, Main Meister. Question for the next waffle. Do you think that with the speed technology advancing, it can be a little damaging when dealing with the computer games industry? We know that it takes time for programmers to get to grips with what can be done with a computer. After all, it was only near the end of its popularity with the humble C64 did we see just what the machine was actually capable of in the right hands. Even now, in the last few years, some remarkable games have been made for it. Could we be just scratching the surface with modern machines and moving on far too fast before the full potential has been unlocked? Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Milty, and it's a thing that I've always harboured, is that even a word? Harped on about. I mean, the PlayStation was around for quite a long time. The PlayStation 2, I think, was around for a long time. But then the PlayStation 3 came along and, you know, they were around for quite a while. But I think now we seem to live in this completely disposable society. And companies like Sony and, you know, Microsoft, we've got perfectly good machines. I've got a PlayStation 4 there which does 4K graphics. It looks amazing. I don't really see the reason for upgrading. Will I get a PlayStation 5? Probably. That's just because I'm a gamer. I like to be able to play games. But if the PlayStation 5 had never been released, I wouldn't be bothered at all, because the PlayStation 4 is amazing. And I do think, you know, it's all about making money. These companies, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they want to be making money. They want to be selling consoles. And so it's in their interest to give each machine a limited kind of shelf life and then move on. Now, I know Xbox, Microsoft are quite guilty of that. I mean, I remember when the Xbox 360 came out, literally overnight they stopped making games for the original Xbox, and they did the same with the 360 when the the Xbone came out. I think games for the 360 stopped, and if I play a 360 game, I still get absolutely staggered with how good it looks. So yeah, I think I was going to say it's lazy. It's not. It's all about money, but there's no real reason or incentive for publishers to really push hardware, because they know that when another system comes along, they're going to support that. I mean, I think one of probably the most impressive games, I would say probably the most impressive game on the Xbox, not the Xbox 360, on the PS3 is The Last of Us. I bought it, I completed it on the PS3. I bought it, completed it on the PS4. And I'll be honest, I don't think there's that much difference. You know, side by side, you'd probably be able to tell. But the difference to me is marginal. I was watching a video it was comparing some games on the PS5 against the PS4. And it was like it wasn't split screen, it was split screen. And they showed you the same game running on both machines at the same time. And you know what? The difference, again, it was really marginal. So for me personally, as a sort of an old fart who likes old systems, I would be quite happy if they'd never gone beyond the Xbox 360. I like my games to look like video games. I don't want games to look super realistic, so that you end up thinking, is it a game I'm playing or is it an interactive film? So yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see companies really pushing machines now, because current machines now, they've got, I don't know what kind of memory they've got, I don't know, 16 gig of memory, they've got big hard drives. They'll never have that challenge that they had back in the 80s when they were trying to put an arcade conversion of Space Harrier onto a 48k Spectrum. You know, that was just incredible. And because they were forced into doing, they were forced into kind of coming up with different programming techniques and compression and, I don't know, screen updates and all this kind of, I was going to say bollocks, but all this other stuff, they were able to really push the machines, and now everything is just there. They can program in PCs and compile in PCs and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't think the challenge, I mean, I'm not a programmer, so I might be talking complete bollocks, but I don't think it's as challenging now as it was back then. Obviously things are a lot simpler back then. Look at the games now, I mean, the games are incredible looking, but yeah, I don't think there's any real, everything is just there, so I don't think we're ever really going to see companies really pushing hardware, which is a shame, because that was what made owning a machine interesting, when some amazing new game came out for it and you thought, wow, I didn't think that was possible. I mean, you look at some of the early games, look at Crazy Kong by Analog Software, and then compare it with I don't know, compare it with like Whizball, or dare I say Uridium. I'm not a fan of Uridium, but from a technical point of view, Uridium's unbelievable, you know. So this goes to show, but I don't think you'll ever really get to see that anymore, unfortunately. Sandy Olia, good waffling again. Question for you. I know you like quick pick up and play games like shooters, platform games, but do you wish you could get into deep and complex games like Ultima, Dungeon Master, Knights of the Sky, Gunship 2000? 100%, Sandy. There's very few genres of game that I would say I actually don't like. It's more, I've just not got the patience to get into them. I think because I've got so many games, it's easy to just play something else, and that's what I do. So yeah. The games you've mentioned, maybe not Flight Simulator so much, but Dungeon Master, I've always wanted to really get stuck into it. Knights of the Sky, I do remember that one. That was quite a good shoot 'em up. I think it was. Was that Microprose as well? I think it was on the Amiga. I love the fact that you can get heavily involved and you get lost. You get completely lost and enveloped in a game environment. But I just don't have the patience to stick with it. Perhaps if I was to get rid of the other 49,999 games and leave me just one, then I would probably play it. But because I do have 50 odd thousand games, you know, ROMs, etc., there's nothing to really make me stick with it. And again, I think, certainly as I've gotten older, I'm more aware of time or lack of, and I don't think I would want to spend a lot of time playing these games. I mean, I've got a mate, I've not seen him for 6 months, so yeah, take for that what you will. But he would play Mass Effect on the Xbox 360, and it would take him like 100 hours, and then he would play it again. And I always think that would really sadden me, investing so much of my life into a video game. I love video games, I really, really do. But would I want to spend my entire free time just playing a single video game? Not at all. But yeah, to answer your question, Sandy, I would love to get stuck into these games. Maybe, you know what, maybe I keep saying this and I know I'll not do it. Maybe I should just pick a game. Maybe Dungeon Master I should just pick and try and get stuck into it and do a video. I'll think about it. I will 100% think about it. Anyway, Sandy, thanks very much. Del Boy, great hacking story. That's in reference to the waffle that we did last week or the week before. Question for you, pre-2000, is there a machine home computer, handheld or arcade that you would still love to own or not have experienced in person? Mine would be the Sharp X68000. Yeah, I've mentioned that a few times, Dale. I would love to own a Sharp X68000, but I won't because A, you need to be fluent in Japanese to operate it. B, it's extremely temperamental. C, they're as rare as hen's teeth. And D, they're ridiculously expensive. So, yeah, the chance of me owning one is next to zero. And again, this is the thing, although I keep saying I would love to own one, if I did own one, chances are it would sit in a cupboard. It would be a bit like my Atari 800. I would wheel it out just to look at it. I would never actually play it. You know, when I can play it on an emulator. So as much as I'd love to own it, I know if I did, it wouldn't get used. It simply wouldn't get used. But any other machines that I'm after, I'm still after an NES. In fact, if I remember rightly, now I don't know if Mike watches this, he's sitting in Discord. One of my mates has actually sold me an NES. I've still to pay for it, still to pick it up. So technically I do own an NES. I can't think of any other hardware that I would really... Old hardware. I mean, I wouldn't mind a Commodore 128. Yeah, I did, as I mentioned, I did have one for a short space of time, less than a day actually, because it wasn't working properly. I wouldn't mind a working CD32. The one I've got doesn't read discs anymore, and I'm completely pants at fixing stuff. Anything else? You know what? There is really... I'm going to say that's sad that I don't want anything else. It just means that I literally do have everything gaming related that I would ever want to own. Sorry, another interruption there on my phone. Hopefully I can't even remember what I was talking about. But yeah, Holy Grails. I say there's nothing apart from the Sharp X68000. I don't think there's well, maybe it's the FM Towns Marty, I think it's called. Kind of similar looking machine to the XJ, to the X68000. But yeah, apart from either of these two machines, I don't think there's really anything that I'm looking for. And I'm going to read this one out because I don't think it's a question as such, but this is why I do YouTube. Cauldron of Stardust. Main Meister, I always love hearing you reminisce. I'm a bit younger than you. I was born in 1983 and I really like hearing what the computer and video gaming experience was like when I was a toddler in preschool years. It really hits hard to hear you talk about those times you were playing your C64 and realising that you had basically an entire virtual arcade in your own house. I'll never know that, the mind-blowing awe of something like that. I just took my NES for granted as a little tyke, as I never knew a world before home gaming existed. I'm quite jealous of you in that regard. You touched on this theme in one of your best synth music videos and how you couldn't believe that your humble home computer was actually making music, something like which I had never thought about in my life, but an experience that must have been jaw-dropping to someone who grew up in a time when computers didn't do things like playing music. I suppose it's like how recently I was watching my cousin's 9-year-old kid effortlessly looking things up on the World Wide Web on his iPad, and I kind of felt sad for him, thinking to myself, he just takes us for granted. He'll never be able to comprehend the wonderful shock, ecstasy and awe I felt the first time I used the web in 1997 as a 14-year-old, and having my mind blown, realising that the entire world was inside the computer in our family's living room. He'll never know what kind of euphoria, because the web has always existed his whole life. Alan, you give good little details about the feelings and the experiences of gaming back in the 1980s. You're a treasure to listen to. Thank you very, very much. That's really, really nice. You're absolutely right what you're saying about, you know, I was lucky to have been there at the very, very birth of this whole industry, and people like my daughter and that, it's always been there, so they never had that kind of, that real amazing experience. But yeah, that's a really, really nice comment. Thank you very, very much. Catherine Tyson, nice one. I have a question. How do you think names like the Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum and other old computers compare against the PlayStation 3, 4, 5, Xbox One? That's an interesting question, Catherine. Well, I mean, yeah, the thing about modern consoles is the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. I mean, I can't for the life of me think what they're going to call the next PlayStation that comes after the PlayStation 5. 6 possibly? Who knows? Yeah, modern consoles, they try and obviously come up with a name that conjures up an image of technology and wonderful games and cutting edge and the future and all this kind of stuff. Whereas old machines, they were just, I mean, yeah, the Commodore 64, they were, it was just the name of the company and they tagged on a name. I mean, I'll say that, you had the, well, yeah, the Dragon 32, and it was generally the name of the company and then the amount of memory. So you had the Commodore 64, Commodore 128, the Sinclair Spectrum. At least the Sinclair actually came up with a name. You know, it was Sinclair that brought the computer out, but they called it the Spectrum or the ZX Spectrum. And then obviously, yeah, you had your ZX Spectrum 128, VIC 20. I suppose, yeah, the Commodore. I mean, the C64, the name of the Commodore 64 was basically 64, Commodore 64. Whereas I suppose with the Amiga, actually they came up with a name for it. They didn't call it the Commodore 512. They actually came up with a name, Amiga, I think it's friend in Spanish, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I don't know. I think, again, it's a nostalgia thing, Catherine. When I think of, you know, these old machines, you just get lots of happy memories popping up. Whereas, I don't know, I think of PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, there's no nostalgia attached to these at all. So, yeah, I'm old school. I'm definitely going to go for the older ones. So anyway, with that in mind, that is the end of it. I'm going to get going before I get interrupted yet again. I will be along on Sunday because I've got work next week, boo. I'll be along 7 till 9 as always. I'm going to do another free-for-all, which I've already mentioned. So if you want to join me, that would be absolutely fantastic. And thanks always to everybody that continues to watch the channel. Thanks to everybody that's just joined the channel and maybe subscribed as well. That's always really nice of you. Hopefully I can make enough interesting comment to keep you guys going. And until next time, guys, thank you very much and thank you for watching.